Thank you for sharing your Sunday with me. I'm JB Bryan, President and Chief Investment Officer at JB Bryan Financial Group, the home of AfroEconomics. There's the AfroEconomics page. And remember, November 12th, Sunday, November 12th, a couple of weeks. I can't believe this. I cannot believe it's almost November. November 12th, we're doing the Black Business Summit. Register at theblackbusinesssummit.com. For AfroEconomics members, it's absolutely included in your membership. So I won't say free, right? But it is included. And we're going to have breakfast, lunch, and an afternoon snack too. So, and a whole bunch of financial empowerment for entrepreneurs, just like we talk about every Sunday. And today's Let's Talk Business discussion is about Booker T. Washington, up from slavery. The man himself had such insight. Let me look. I thought this was interesting because I just thought about the newspaper is doing it. A newspaper in Virginia is doing an article on me and AfroEconomics, and they were asking me like, what do you enjoy reading, and and then it made me just think about like my favorite books, and then I thought about how one of my favorite books, Up from Slavery, how it relates to our life today as entrepreneurs. And then I went so far as to like pull out some key points and then bring it into the principles of AfroEconomics. So, we're bringing it on home. So if you think of anything while I am talking, please, even if you want to be brought in so that I can see you, like I should say, every time, whenever you ask me a question, I'm bringing your face on. That would be mean, wouldn't it? But I can instantly promote you to a panelist, and then I can see you if you're at your computer or on your phone. But I don't want to scare y'all, make you want to do the call on my phone for now, and you're like, no, I'm doing the teleconference. She's not going to do that. But I don't know. I think you probably have to accept it to allow me to see your face. But I can upgrade you so that you can interface with me. And quite often during the members meetings, I have been fortunate enough to have members that do want to be online. So in more Sundays, I have to bring you members that are business owners. Yes, I want to bring you all in as panelists so that we can talk, especially about things like this, because I just brought out some key points of things in the book that I feel relate to us right now. Now, the Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington is a book about his life. He was born into slavery, and I am praying right now that you all can still actively see me because the screen is frozen, but please send me a note back letting me know that you are definitely can still see me, or I'm going to like break out into like a cry. But at least the good thing is that I'm still recording that, and I want to make sure that at minimum you can hear me. So if you can, send a note back to me. So we're going to, and you'll be, but then when I record it, all you'll see is a frozen face in the recording too. But I think that I'm going to have to talk to the webinar service provider because this is the second time that it froze me. And it doesn't even freeze me in the best poses. Like it's going to freeze you. It should freeze you in a good place. So let's talk about Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. And the screen is frozen, but the audio is fine. That's what I'm talking about. Dr. Williams, you have made my day. Thank you. Thank you. So Up from Slavery, it's all about it. Now, a key point that I saw in the book is that for the first and most importantly to me, I feel as entrepreneurs, is that he agreed in the fourth principle of AfroEconomics about having education, training, knowledge, that it is important to you. Up from Slavery is a book about the power, really, of how education and training can transform your life. And you'll see that most entrepreneurs actually have some sort of training or education, and they're doing and making a living off of that something that they've really become very good at. And that what they did was they first made a commitment that I want to be the best at this, so I want to learn more about this. So from an early age, Booker T. Washington viewed school and education and training as an opportunity to be in paradise. That it was like he wanted to get as far away from ignorance as he could. That he felt like his commitment to education and training was empowering to others, and it would give him a chance to actually help other people. So, and that he saw, which unfortunately I don't think that we see enough in our community, the value of industrial education. Like he saw that as a key, that it gives students a skill and it teaches them to make a living off their skill and to be of value to your community through the skills that you have. And it's amazing how over the years we have actually moved away from having those trainings and the skill set. So he chose that he was going to work in education and use that education instead of, becoming involved in politics. That he said that I'm going to focus on allowing others to have that joy, that feeling of the paradise of education and information and what it all has to offer. So that so he just really trained himself and went through great effort to try to get to, was born into slavery. So we have to remember this. And like key parts about the book, not to move off the subject, but was just to point out the basic things of life that we take for granted, like the fabric and the feel of your clothes. That he would talk about how his older brother would wear clothes for him because when he was so young, that the feel of the rough fabric that they made slaves' clothes out of hurt him for weeks, and it just hurt forever to soften up the fabric. So he says like his older brother would wear his small clothes, tight clothes for him so that he could have something to wear. And he said he would just wear the same clothes. So he brought that value system all the way through him. No matter how much education, no matter how much he had, he brought that value system with him going forward. And I feel that as entrepreneurs, we have to realize that we're in a position that we too can teach people about the value of appreciating everything that you have, and bringing that into the work and bringing that into and training your employees to be careful and conscious and getting the training and why it's so important for them to be good at what they do and why it's important to make sure that everything is cost effective and not wasteful. And, just because of realizing the sacrifices that other people have made before us, and that they'll feel like that it's cruel that they only get a break, every 2 hours or something like that. And, we have to remind us that, what a privilege that we have to be able to have our own businesses, and that we shouldn't I find I'm inspired by people like him who went through so much and still had a commitment to make sure that their existence made life better for others. It's just so powerful. So I guess the first thing I want to point out is that having a value system that realizes that education is important. It realizes that education, that training is important, and that having a value system as an entrepreneur that realizes that you're not too good for anything, and realizing how blessed we are to do what we love doing each day. And I don't feel like if you don't love what you're doing, especially as an entrepreneur, you shouldn't be doing it. You should retrain, re-educate, and learn more about what you really love to do, and go out there and create a living for yourself and others doing it. And a second principle out of the book about Booker T. Washington's life up from slavery is that he taught us to be self-reliant. He talked about how self-reliant he was, how he decided at, the point, like most of his life, he didn't even know what his birthday was, and for some of us, that could probably be a good thing, because the older that we get, the more we make excuses for, I can just give up now because I'm this such and such an age. So imagine if you didn't know what age you were, you could just do what you got to do. So he was a strong advocate of self-reliance and believed that individual merit will bring success regardless of the color of your skin. That even as a child, he expressed his admiration for the traits of self-reliance. He praised his mother for making things for him to wear when he went off to college and to get educated, rather than going into debt and owing someone for the things that he was going to need in order to go off to school. And that he went on after school, he went on to be a key person in the development of Tuskegee Institute. And he insisted, now this is what it says, he insists not only the students learn to practice a trade, but also that they learn to grow their own food, construct their own businesses, and build their own furniture. He condemned wasteful spending and often, look, he condemned wasteful spending and reiterates often the idea that people who make themselves useful will be of value to society, no matter if they're Black. That if you're so good at what you do, then it will be undeniable. No matter what it is that you do, you'll be the best at it, and it'll be undeniable that they'll want, that everybody is going to want your furniture. You make furniture, you're the best at making furniture, you're committed to it, that it will be undeniable that you are very good at it, and you will be able to make a living because you're so good at what you do. And I've often said that. I want AfroEconomics to be, I don't want you to be with me because I'm Black. I want you to be with me because I'm very good at what I do. I'm committed to what I do. I study what I do. I work hard to make sure that your goals are met and sustained, and being accountable and following through. That is what. And then, matter of fact, she's Black like me. Hey, right? Not because I'm Black, because that's not going to keep you as a loyal customer. And that's what he's saying, that if you are good at what you do, you'll be of service to your community. You will be able to make a living. And he advocates that we go get trained, get the education, and serve your own. And the fifth principle that Booker T. Washington brings home to us as entrepreneurs is integrity. That it says one of Washington's most often repeated messages is that those who are happiest are those who dedicate themselves to helping others, right? That's a fifth principle of AfroEconomics, looking at the soul of your money. Like, what is your spirit? What is your purpose? Why are you doing this? And a big part of your why is the first principle of AfroEconomics, which is also, we'll talk about in a minute, but integrity, having it. He condemned anything that wasn't operating from a place of doing good and doing good by others and looking out for yourself, your community, and making sure that everything that you're about is about good and helping and building, not trying to bring down anyone else. He said he commended his fellow students at Hampton for educating themselves in order to lift up the people in their communities, rather than just looking out for their own advancement. And he expresses his admiration for his teachers, and then their commitment to teaching their own race. There's so many examples up from slavery about how people helped each other, people of the same color, people of the opposite colors, how he expresses examples of how white people had given to help, to create the educational institutions initially right after slavery, and how through their philanthropy, that they were able to build these institutions. So he saw, and Dr. Williams says he saw value in focusing on our own goals rather than focusing on non-productive fighting against others. Amen. When segregation was being pushed, he used his abilities to establish Tuskegee and educate and train our own people. Exactly. That's what's up. You see that? Dr. Williams agrees. And I'm going to tell you, he would totally, be about you, Dr. Williams, and appreciate what you're doing, because there's so many of us in a position to do anything and work with anybody. And when we choose to work together, what an example that you're expressing to others who are watching what you do. The mere thought that you're sharing your ideas with us right now is exactly what he talks about that we're supposed to do. When you go out there and you get that information and you know these things, and then you're saying, yes, he said when segregation was being pushed, we used his abilities to establish Tuskegee and educate and train our own people. See, that's bringing it home. That's exactly what he's talking about. You're operating from a place of integrity and helping us. Helping me. So we have to continue to help others wherever we are, whatever we're doing, giving it our best. So he has so many examples. I encourage all of us to read and continue to read and repeatedly read, of the book, because these are the type of things that you can't get enough. Like sometimes, like when I read it, like I just feel like I don't have anything to be miserable about, and I talk to so many people who have so much, but we don't really realize relative to where you could be, how blessed you are, how much you have accomplished, how in spite of all the odds you are. You might have in your mind that you should be a different place, but you are in a place, and the more you appreciate where you are and what you're doing, and everything, the more you'll be able to make a contribution to others. Because when they say, hurt unhappy people make other people unhappy. So the happier you are with your life, the more you're going to help someone else be happy and help them learn from you, because you have something to contribute indeed. So another point, let's say like it's a fourth point, and it goes along with the fourth principle of AfroEconomics: knowledge and also organization and planning. Booker T. Washington believed that labor and education go hand in hand. That he felt like it was slavery that made us feel like any job that dealt with labor was disgusting, below us, was disgraceful. To be a plumber, or to be a blacksmith, or to be, in these positions of labor, and we have to, disassociate that with slavery and look at it for the training that you provide and the service that you provide and how important it is. So it says here that Booker T. Washington celebrated the fact that some of the principal figures in the educational institutions when he was in school washed windows with him, fixed beds with him, and were adamant. And so when he started a school, he was adamant that Tuskegee students did manual labor as part of their education. And that's where it came in, where he was making them learn to grow their own food and fix their own furniture, and they were vital. Those initial students were vital in the building of the buildings. Like now, young people just look back and they see these bulldozers, but they don't see they don't get a chance to touch the soil, get involved in the soil, to see that how a building is built, how the plumbing is set up, how the electrical work is done. No matter what you are, no matter how you are in life. Like I had a party for my mother over the weekend, and we had so much stuff going on that one of the circuits in my kitchen went out. Now, that's all we got. I probably had like, I don't know, like probably I had a couple of doctorates in there, probably about 6 or 7 master's degrees, and 10 undergraduate degrees. And it was the one man who did not have any education past high school that actually was able to fix, and felt comfortable with what a fuse box and what the circuit breakers or whatever. Well, look, ain't no fuse box, but look, telling my age, right? But the circuit breakers, what they look like, because of that training. That wasn't something that you learned in undergrad. It wasn't something that you learned in your master's degree or your doctorate. So you have to really make a commitment, or you're going to always be calling an 800 number or some number to call somebody in to do things like that. And you're sitting there with the light out, and all they have to do is come in and push a button, but you don't know which button to push and where it is and where a reset is and things like that. So, it's vital that we bring back that it's okay to know these things. It's important to know these things. It's not so, that you're not so special just because you don't even know how to, change your own oil, or don't know where the oil is, or don't understand brake pads and don't understand these things. That is cool. You can know what you know and know these things too. And I think because if you know and you understand these things, you have a better appreciation for what people are doing in those technical areas that we call, or, and are often thought of as labor jobs, but they're vital to our existence. So another point that you brought out was the importance of forgiveness as an entrepreneur, of being able to put past situations of adversity behind us. He brought out the point that it wasn't only Black people that were the victims of slavery, that actually whites suffered themselves because of they created slavery. It made them not be self-reliant. They weren't able to fix things. He said it was like during the Civil War, their houses fell apart. They didn't know how to do anything because often the slaves had run off to be in the war to fight for the other side. And especially down south, their homes were dilapidated, just basic things they did not know how to do. And he said that, so it had hurt them in ways that we often don't think about. But that is exactly what happens when you become dependent and not self-reliant. When you become dependent on something outside of yourself and you think they've done you a favor, or people say like that, oh, they gave me a loan, or I'm going to get a loan, or wow, I was approved for a loan, when it actually we're going in begging where they should be begging because, that's not a good thing to have to borrow from someone else. So, but we're not really taught that you're helping them because they need the business from you, that you're the customer. You don't have to beg anybody to get to borrow from them and then pay them back 3, 4, 5, 10 times what you borrowed over a time period. No, you have the upper hand. But if we feel like we have to do these things, these are things I have to have because I can't make it for myself, so I got to go and do rent to own furniture because I can't make my own furniture and I'm not able to do that, then we have to definitely make sure that that we just realize that on every situation that sometimes there's a victim on both sides of a situation, and James Allen talks about that also in As a Man Thinketh, like who is actually the victim, the slave or the master, because the master becomes a victim of depending on the slave, that I think there even makes points, to talk about integrity, that fifth principle of AfroEconomics. He talks about that there were slaves who were buying their way to freedom, going to work for other people to buy their freedom. For example, like they were in Virginia and they would put them on a plantation in Ohio, and Ohio was paying the master off for their freedom. And then when the war was over, he knew examples of men who came to that master and paid them that money, even though the war had said they didn't owe that master any more money. But they said that, no, I'm going to pay you what I owe you, because I can't sleep without making sure and knowing that I don't owe you anything. That's where we have to operate from. Not that, oh, wow, I'm not going to pay that. I'm going to file bankruptcy. We have to get out of that mentality, and realize that there's more pleasure on the side of knowing that you paid it all. We don't have to always, you don't have to have everything. Just some things you just don't need to have. Don't have, but we feel like you have to have everything, and that consumerism and feeling competitive and trying to keep up with everybody else, then it creates this and it pulls you away from a place of integrity. But in Up From Slavery, they talk about how we are rooted in integrity, that we keep our word. We are loyal people. So thank you, Dr. Williams. Said there's wonderful points to share. Perspective is the key to understanding our value. Indeed. Yes, indeed. So definitely. Thank you. And then my next to last point is about the ninth principle of AfroEconomics, which he points out in the book, determination. His life is an excellent example of the power of determination. You're born a slave, sleeping on the floor. He slept on the floor all of his childhood. They slept on the floor. He said he was faced with numerous barriers. He never gave up trying to get an education as a boy, even going so far as to alter the time displayed on the clock of the salt mines to make it to school on time, so that when he'd be working out in the salt mines, he would sneak and change the time so that they thought that it was later than it was. So if he had to be at school, he would change it half an hour so he could give him time to leave and get off on time. So he was like put in the clock fast, so that he would actually be on time still for school. Seriously, he didn't give up on his dream of going off to Hampton to get that education. He didn't give up on his dream to go and develop Tuskegee. And there were so many times when Tuskegee had no money for buildings, no money for food, no money for land, no money for materials, but he kept trying to make bricks, and he didn't give up. It's like the guy who said he started, Tesla, trying to do that. The guy who started Tesla had something to do with the rockets and all of that, and then he kept giving up. He kept trying and trying and trying. He never gave up, and he was running out of money, and he had one more chance to try to make the rocket take off, and it worked. But he said that even if that time had not worked, he still would have somehow come up with the money. And that's what he did. And that's why there's still Tuskegee today. The great success that was achieved by him and Tuskegee Institute is a testament to what can happen when one is determined. Even in insurmountable odds. If I told you my story, you'd cry. But we're still here. That's why I tell my daughter all the time, we're still here. You still here. Perseverance. So, and determination. The ninth principle of AfroEconomics. And finally, legacy. Legacy. Principle 1 of AfroEconomics, going from nothing to something. He was adamant. This book shows how adamant he was for us to develop the attitude of looking at nothing and having the imagination, the visualization of that I can take. I have nothing. I don't even have any bricks. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. And to see that I'm going to get this from nothing, and this is going to look like this one day. We're going to have tall buildings and walls and everything, and we're going to do it. And think about the people who sent their students there, how desperate they were to get an education. Had nothing, and he made it into something. That's what that first principle of AfroEconomics is about for us as entrepreneurs, to believe that we've got to do what we've got to do to create the service, the product, that you are put here in order to provide to your community. You've got to make that commitment to that. I've got to do this because this is my purpose. This is my legacy. That's the first principle. First deciding what's your why. Why am I here? What am I doing this for? What is my purpose? He decided early on that his purpose was to educate, that he wasn't going to be a politician. What is your purpose? What have you decided as an entrepreneur? What are you supposed to do? Because, that is Booker T. Washington's entrepreneurship at its finest. And anything that we do, my underlying point here always is that everything that we do, no matter if you work in an institution or you work for the government or you work for your own business, whatever you do, you're educated, whatever, you have to look at yourself as your own enterprise. What's your purpose and how are you going to make the world a better place? So we know that up from slavery, the story of Booker T. Washington is about expanding your knowledge and education, being self-reliant, working from a place of integrity, being organized and planning, and constantly increasing your knowledge and realizing that you are never too good to do what you got to do to help someone get ahead. That you can clean the toilet if you have to. You can clean the floor. You can, in order to make sure that your customers have the best experience. You got to do what you got to do. You can. There's this whole attitude like, if you're working in your business, you're not building your business. Whatever. That's nice. Okay. So that's the crap that puts people into debt, and they're going out trying to get business loans to start a business, and then they get this loan and it's just a crutch. It's just a crutch. You just try to get this business. It's just like slavery. You get this little loan, and you never learn the muscle that's required to create something from nothing. The loan just allows you to go from dirt to walls and brick, but you don't even know what's under there. So your foundation is not even firm, and then you're thinking, well, this way I could do it a lot faster. Yeah, but is it sustainable? So be very careful how you get from point A to Z, because it's those letters in between is where your strength comes in. So knowing that. And then forgiveness, integrity again, determination, principle 9, and legacy, knowing your why, what's it all for, and realizing that your life could be spent creating something to benefit someone that you'll never meet, but they will appreciate you. You all have a great, great, great week. I hope that you got something out of that. I really, 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 really appreciate your comments. You made my day. And I make sure that you email me and communicate with me with any questions. Oh, Mr. Keith, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I thank God for you. You all have a wonderful week.